James Connolly's Socialism and Nationalism isn't just a defence of combining Irish nationalism with socialism. It's a ruthless critique of any liberation movement that doesn't also liberate the working class. Written in 1897, this essay cuts through the romantic nationalism, bourgeois revolution and imperialist internationalism with surgical precision. Let's break it down section by section with full quotes and a deep analysis. Connolly opens with a warning. Irish national movements too often romanticise the past instead of confronting the material realities of the present. Open quote, "There is a danger that the men who devote themselves to gathering the relics of Ireland's past, and who grow enthusiastic over every item bearing upon the lives of our forefathers, may only succeed in stereotyping our historical studies into a worship of the past, unfitted to serve the purposes of the present." End quote. He appreciates the work of preserving Irish culture, but says it becomes useless unless tied to real political struggle. Traditions can inspire martyrdom, but martyrdom is not revolution. Open quote, "Traditions may, and frequently do, provide materials for a glorious martyrdom, but can never be strong enough to ride the storm of a successful revolution." End quote. Connolly sets the stage. He is not against nationalism, he pivots to the key political question. What does Ireland need? Open quote, "The ideal we of the Socialist Republican Party have formed of the Irish nation is of a nation living its own life, taking its place among the peoples of the earth, not as a nation of rack-rented slaves, not as a nation of trembling serfs, but as a nation of free men." End quote. He calls out those who pretend that independence alone, without changing class relations, can achieve this vision. Open quote, "Not a republic as in France, nor yet a republic as in the United States, but a republic embracing all the principles of revolutionary socialism." End quote. Connolly wants to fuse the struggle for national liberation with a clear revolutionary program for the working class. In other words, a workers' republic. Connolly then addresses a rising trend in Irish politics, appeals to the respectable classes. Open quote, "Some of our critics have said that if we would drop our socialism, we could have a united Ireland party behind us. Quite so. If we dropped our republicanism, we could, with equal ease, have a united Irish party behind us." End quote. This sarcastic jab gets to the heart of Connolly's argument. Bourgeois nationalists only support movements that won't threaten their class interests. That's why they fear socialism more than they hate British rule. Open quote, "We might even go further. If we dropped our political opinions altogether, we could have all parties behind us. But what would be the use?" End quote. He refuses to dilute the program. A socialism that sacrifices itself for respectability becomes meaningless. Connolly then attacks the logic of building a free Ireland on capitalist foundations. Open quote, "The British Empire at present supports its throne and buttresses its power by means of its ownership and control of the wealth of Ireland. If we get rid of the English and leave the Irish landlords and capitalists with the same power, we shall simply have changed the accents of our oppressors." End quote. The landlords will speak Irish, but they will still be landlords. Open quote, "It is our business to organise the Irish working class, to make them realise that they are the only secure foundation upon which a free nation can be reared." End quote. This isn't just class analysis, it's revolutionary strategy. Connolly is saying, don't fight for a flag, fight for power. Full sections of the essay comes when Connolly redefines patriotism. Open quote, "The Irish Socialist Republican Party holds that the subjection of one nation to another is incompatible with the ideals of socialism, and that the internationalism of the socialist movement must necessarily be based upon the absolute independence of each nationality." End quote. Unlike English internationalists, who ignore the national struggle, Connolly asserts that Irish independence is not opposed to socialism. It is a part of socialism. He clarifies that nationalism without class consciousness is hollow. Open quote, "We are socialists because we are rebels against the tyranny of capitalism, and we are republicans because we are rebels against the tyranny of imperialism." End quote. The link is essential. If you reject one form of tyranny but uphold another, you're no revolutionary. The next section makes up the political core of the essay. Connolly argues that only the working class has an interest in achieving full liberation. Open quote, "We believe that it is the business of the working class to take the political power and to use that power to transform society in its own interest." End quote. But what about the middle class? Connolly is unsparing. Open quote, "The middle class in every country has only risen to power on the shoulders of a working class whom it has betrayed and deserted at the moment of victory." End quote. This is historical materialism at its sharpest. The working class is not just another group among many, it is the only class that can complete the national revolution and carry it forwards to socialism. Connolly's scorn for class collaboration becomes even more biting as he mocks appeals to elite support. Open quote, "To whom do you appeal? To the landlord? Then you must guarantee him the perpetuation of his present rights over the soil. To the capitalist? Then you must assure him of his share of the profits of your labour." End quote. His message? You cannot serve both capital and the nation. One must be overthrown to liberate the other. Open quote, "You are told that Ireland must be free. True. But what do you mean by Ireland? Is it the people or the land, or the hills and the valleys? If you mean the people, then who are the people, and how shall they be free?" End quote. Connolly refuses any vague appeals to the nation that do not confront class structure. The Irish people are not a cultural abstraction. They are workers, peasants, labourers, tenants. Their freedom must be material, not symbolic. Connolly ends the essay with revolutionary optimism. He says Ireland's struggle, if rooted in socialism, could inspire the world. Open quote, "The Irish Republic might be made a word to conjure with, a rallying point for the disaffected, a haven for the oppressed, a point of departure for the social revolution of the world." End quote. This is one of Connolly's most visionary lines. He isn't calling for a narrow nationalism. He's calling for Ireland to take its place in the global socialist revolution, not as a victim, but as a beacon. Open quote, "Let us but work in that faith, and the day will come when the emancipated workers of Ireland will rise as one man and drive the conqueror and the capitalist and the public plunderer into the sea." End quote. In conclusion, James Connolly's Socialism and Nationalism is a manifesto for revolutionary strategy in colonised nations. Connolly doesn't simply bolt nationalism onto Marxism, he synthesises them. He shows that the national question and the class question are not opposed, but mutually reinforcing. Nationalism without socialism leads to native capitalism. Socialism without national liberation is imperialist betrayal. A workers' republic is the only true source of independence. Connolly wrote these words in 1897. In 1916, he would die for them, executed after the Easter Rising, but the struggle that he describes remains unfinished. We've been the Left Library. We make political theory simple. Share this if you believe in a world where liberation is not just national, but social. Subscribe for more close readings of revolutionary text. And remember Connolly's final lesson. You can change the flag, but until you change the system, the workers are still in chains.